Yeah, I've seen the photo before in college, I believe. But, you know, like a lot of horrific images of slavery, it's becoming art pieces, hangings on the wall. And you forget the human that went through that horrific ordeal. I researched on Peter. Peter was in a coma for 3 months. And when he was in a coma, he said he saw God. And so he felt that he was emancipated spiritually, not physically. And I wrote at the top of my script, sacred motivation, because I knew it would have to be something deeper inside of me to get through it, to experience that every day, to watch Black people, my people in chains, watch Will in chains. What really moved me, when we were prepping this, that's when George Floyd was murdered, a lot of things happening in the world. So I felt like we were not reminding people of their horrific behavior of how to treat each other. And I wanted to tell a story that basically this would be my love letter to America, to a place I love, my home, that we can't let this happen again. It was all about faith, love, resilience, getting back to his family. So if it was ever going to be a love letter to America from me, this would be it.
Love that. And we're going to talk about that opening scene. Talk about the preparation that you had to do to get into Dorian, and because what was out there for you to like tell her story?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a daunting task. She's such an incredible woman and greatly sacrificed for her family, and so finding her was interesting. It was certainly an experience to me. So I've said to Anton before, you get that role and you're so happy as an actor, and then you realize you're like, oh, this is going to be really hard. But I started in the obvious place, looking at history books, but as I kept going through it, I realized that, books turn people into numbers, and the enslaved people didn't have a way to get their experience down and have it accurately reflected. So I went and I listened to hours and hours of narratives from enslaved people, and there was one that really shook me. I believe her name was Mary, and she put a dirty plate on her mistress's table, and that made mistress beat her so hard that she wasn't able to move her jaw again, and she wasn't able to eat solid foods for the rest of her life. And it was one of many stories that were horrifying, but I went to bed and I was deeply moved by this story, and then when I woke up, I couldn't move my jaw. And I don't know what weird kind of voodoo thing that is, but when I went through that experience, I felt what she felt. I felt what it was like to be in pain, and to feel stuck, and to have no voice, and to feel what it was like to be silenced. And at that point, I think I tried to intellectualize her at the beginning, but then I got to experience her, and she started to speak through me. And I could feel the pressure in her chest. I could hear the language of her people, and I could hear the songs that she wanted to sing her children. And then, speaking of experience, there's no way I could have done it without this team here. Mona made a beautiful space for me every day in the hair department, making, it's so much about the atmosphere that's created around you. Ken as well, I loved that this project, was accurate and free of vanity as well. We just wanted to tell it the way it was. And, Naomi's beautiful production work, I looked around and there was nothing to tell me I wasn't in this time period. Everything was so authentic and perfect, and, and it was like a trick for my mind, because I felt like I was there. And actually somebody said to us last night, they were saying, Bob must really like you because the way he shot you was so beautiful. And I'm like, he liked all of us. He shot us all that way.
I do.
So, it was an experience. And of course, this wonderful man here who is such a beautiful collaborator. I remember that moment because, I could feel her language, and I could feel the songs, and we're shooting that scene where with my children, and I could tell he was about to call cut, and I just started singing. which was kind of really embarrassing as an actor, and no one was ready. I was like, and I thought, this is where I get fired, right? But this guy is so great. He just encourages you to like bring your instincts. And you know, the next take, I said, can I say it in Haitian Creole? And he was like, yes, more. This is what this is about. And truly, like, he's a master. He works from his heart and soul. So it was such a team endeavor.
Before I jump to you, Bob, Antoine, I want you to talk quickly about casting. Charmaine.
Charmaine's amazing.
How did
Charmaine.
her audition?
Well, Mary Renew is a fantastic casting agent, director. And I saw a lot of wonderful actresses that came in. And then I saw Charmaine. And I remember seeing her immediately going like, that's Dorian. And it's hard to explain it to her, but I said, because she has a lot of pain in her eyes. She had a lot of pain in her eyes when I was watching her, and I felt like it was so real. And my heart broke for her, thinking about the journey that they were going to go on. And so I said Charmaine had to be in the film. Ben Foster came along, incredible actor. He created Fossil, that Fossil. Ben really spent a lot of time with me and talking, and wanted to make it feel like a guy that we would all know, could be from Ohio, as opposed to the Southern trope, as Fassel really was. He's a real guy. But Ben really helped shape that character quite a bit.
You found a young unknown actor called Will Smith, right?
Oh, Will. Well, Will sent me the script. So that, you know, it came through Will and CAA. So I was halfway in when Will sent it to me, because we've been wanting to work together for a long time. But what was amazing about it is these two beautiful people, Judy and Pierce. I was working on the script, and we were having Zooms and going through the whole process. They put together a test of Will Smith, the way he looks now. It broke my heart, because I thought, this is what Will would look like if he was a slave. It broke my heart, and I called him and I said, that's it, that's the look. So they created that look. And the rest of the cast, amazing. I'll be sure as I can. The rest of the cast, amazing. I want to just say this about the cast because it's so important to know. The black characters that played the role were in pain every day. Every day. The white characters were in pain every day, these actors. We had therapy for them every day. They would come up to me crying, playing these ugly roles. You know, that was an amazing experience for me, because to be able to wrap your arms around people and say, it's okay, I know that's not who you are, is what this movie is all about. You know, so everyone that's cast in this movie gave their heart. Not one of them didn't have their own personal journey. They would come up to me and talk to me about it. So the casting, a lot of credit to Mary Renew. She always brings me great people.
Incredible. Bob Richardson.
Well, Antoine decided it was going to be black and white. I didn't decide a thing. The truth of the matter is we didn't want to make a color movie, and that the black and white served the story in a much finer manner than color would have. But initially it was intended to be a color film, but the black and white brought, I think, so much more heart and captured what you often talk about, the brutality as well as the beauty. So that's how.
Talking about the beauty, that opening to Will's performance, to the importance of the story that has not been told until now.
Whew. I mean, yeah, it feels like one of the most important things I've done in my life. You know, it's interesting. So my heritage is Australian, and my family's from Zimbabwe. And you know, this is such a reminder that, you know, by the grace of God, my family wasn't thrown on ships and brought here to work. And you know, in Australia, which is probably something I should have learned in school, but you know, at this moment in 1863, slavery continued again in Australia for another 50 years, almost unabated. So I just think it's such a relevant story for today. And for me as an artist, I'm, you know, growing up in Australia, I'm always trying to search for my heritage and find out like more about my bloodline, because I grew up in a culture where not everyone looked like me. And for me, this has been such a beautiful process of being able to find those parts of myself and not only honor myself, but my family and their story. So it's, you know, and I get to work with such beautiful people. This has truly been like a life-changing experience. And, you know, Antoine, the way he directs, he's given me notes that I'll remember for the rest of my days, you know? Like beautiful things like, you know, we'll be standing on Naomi's beautiful set, Evergreen Plantation, and he'll be like, remember that there's 400 years of pain beneath your feet in that soil. And so it's the most purpose-driven, spiritually inclined project I've ever done, and I'm so very grateful to be a part of it.
Amazing.
It means everything. It's complicated, but it's not. One of my heroes is Muhammad Ali, and I remember him saying, courage only matters when everything's on the line. And it feels like we're at a place in our country where everything's on the line. And every time I watch the film, the kid yelling and during the battle, "Mama," that's George Floyd. When Vassal runs down Peter, he says, "Humble down." That was just happening in Mexico on horseback. So I'm hoping people will see that we're not so far away from this behavior. You know, we can't forget this behavior. I went to school at a place called Taylor Alderdice. A lot of people don't know this, which is an all-Jewish school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That synagogue that got shot up is right across from the school. You know, I grew up around that. This can't happen. We can't forget this evil. And so for me, I say it with love and an open heart to embrace the truth. Embrace the truth so we can try to heal and we can maybe fight against these atrocities that continue to happen or the way we treat each other. That's my dream. So what I can do, my power is the camera and these people, and that's it.
Incredible. Incredible conversation, incredible talent. Thank you all so much. Thank you.